SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Ride with us during Mississippi's favorite bike ride. Join us in Greenwood Saturday, August 1st. Bikes, Blues, and Bayous kicks off in historic downtown Greenwood. Cruise the flat, fast Delta roads. Register now at bikesbluesbayous.raceroster.com.
Show was previously recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5,
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith coming to you live this morning on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Contrary to what you may have just heard, this is not pre-recorded. We're here with you live.
I didn't catch the bumper. I forgot that was in there, man. Sorry about that, folks.
No, that's no problem. Look, I was just worried there was a whole show about to start.
I was like, uh-oh.
This is an early morning if we're not doing it. But thank you all for starting your morning off with us, and I hope you'll be part of the conversation. You can always send us a text at the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. It is Friday. It is also Juneteenth, June 19th, a federal holiday that was established in 2021. Let us know, are you working today? Are you off? Are you celebrating the holiday some sort of way? We will be celebrating it by bringing you the best 3 hours of radio you can find in Mississippi. You doing all right, Lance?
Oh, yeah. I'm just glad that we are live today. And like I said, I forgot to get that liner out of there.
I don't think that's a problem.
It's been a few weeks. But no, hopefully everybody's getting ramped up for a huge Juneteenth celebration and a Father's Day on the backside of this weekend.
That's right. Y'all got big Father's Day plans?
Oh, yeah, of course. My dad, he's 80, and he's one of those early birds, likes to eat a little early, likes to miss the crowd.
Got to get to bed early, too.
So, yeah, sister texted me yesterday and said, hey, let's eat at 5 o'clock tomorrow at Outback. Dad wants to eat. I'm like, 5? I know when he and Sheila go, it's pretty early, She goes, okay. She checked back with him. She said, well, he prefers 4. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, we're going to have a big, heavy Father's Day dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
There we go.
It'll be wonderful, though. He'll plenty of time to get back and digest and eat again.
There we go. Yeah, I assume his days start pretty early.
I don't know, man. I mean, sometimes he'll sleep in. He had a bout with leukemia, so he's on the backside of that. And, he's gotten to the point where, he likes to sleep in a little bit, eat his breakfast, catch Fox most of the day.
There we go.
And then if there's some sports, once sports dies down like baseball, this is the best time of year for him because you have had mid-afternoon baseball, like 1 o'clock,
right.
College World Series, regionals, super regionals. So, yeah, I get a lot of interaction during this time of the year. And then once baseball's over, I don't hear from him much until football starts. Yeah, it'll be like around early or late July, early August, and he'll be like, all right, what do you think? And then I'll start giving the lowdown. But we have great sports conversations, and then it's always wonderful to have your parents around, which I do have.
Absolutely.
Both of mine.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Two healthy parents live in the area, so you're blessed if you're in that situation and get the opportunity to actually celebrate Father's Day with your father.
Yeah, well, my dad, he and I used to. I mean, we've never been like. We've spent a lot of time together over many years, but we spent a lot of time at deer camp, and he wasn't one of those that literally wanted me to mirror him or be his shadow, even as a kid. He's very kind of on his own, likes to do his thing. So I kind of grew up similar in that I do a lot of stuff by myself, especially when I go hunting and all that. So we'd be at deer camp and hanging out and have a wonderful time, but never have we really just hunted, you know what I'm saying, or gone on long trips or. So, yeah, the kind of communication and hangout we do is much more arm's length. And, hey, will you come by and mow the grass? Will you come by and do some weed eating? I need this fixed. And it just reminds me of my childhood because I'd spend every Saturday morning, every Sunday morning, he'd come and knock on the door. And I would want to sleep in a little when you're young. You didn't want to wake up at 7, 8 o'clock on a Saturday. And then all of a sudden be, all right, we got to mow and do yard work. I'm like, Dad, I don't want to do yard work today. Come on. And inevitably it would take 2 to 3 hours to get everything running, because back then you didn't have you couldn't just run it to the mechanic. You didn't buy everything new. I mean, we had stuff that was hand-me-down for
stuff
a couple
used
of
to be made
generations.
to last.
Yeah,
That's
so
the big
you had to
difference.
fix it first, and that would take a while. And then about the heat of the day, that's when you would actually get to mow and do the work and all that. And, so it was always that interaction. So how did, with your parents, with your father, what's the main communicative ingredient you guys share?
We work together, and so there's a lot of that we get to talk about. Cool. But the strongest, one of the strongest memories I have as a kid, Dad is and was then just a fanatic Mississippi State baseball fan. Loved all Mississippi State sports, but absolutely adored baseball. And I just have these phenomenal memories of driving up and down. Yeah, I say now 25. This was far enough ago. We were probably going up the Natchez Trace, but driving with Dad up and down to Starkville. We'd go for weeknight games. Where you'd drive up, see it, and drive all the way back to Jackson that night. And a lot of it was just the two of us, and we would just visit about whatever, going and coming. And he taught me early, Lance, how to keep the box score, which now as a father I appreciate. I think what he had was a squirmy kid. No, that's right. But I think he had a squirmy kid. He was like, how do I entertain him? I'm going to teach him to keep the box. And so we used to go to those games, and I would keep the box score. And then on nights we were staying in Starkville, we'd end up going to the Shoney's afterwards with him and one of his buddies, and he'd have me go frame by frame what happened over the course of the game. They're just these incredible incredible
really cool.
memories.
Because I was a baseball player, so my dad was real big on. We didn't really keep score like that because we had somebody that would do it during the games. But we would go over almost every at bat. You'd go over every person that you didn't get out the way you probably should have as a pitcher. So even really young, there was always that kind of interaction of back and forth, and it wasn't critical. It's like, hey, what would you have done here?
Right.
Or why didn't you do this? So it was similar in that we would have these long conversations. At 10, 11 years old, and you would get into great detail. And it's kind of like your dad's a lawyer, right? Mine was a lawyer, so the very verbose when wanted to be. Had a lot to say when it came down time to the things that needed to be said, and it was always about sports or stuff like that. But I just have so many great memories of those conversations, and finally, just kind of as I got older and him getting a little less and less that way and trusting that I kind of, hey, you've been taught well. You know how to do this. Go do the work. But one of my favorite memories was coming back from Mississippi State baseball camp. I couldn't have been 10, maybe 11. My mom had dropped me off. Both my parents worked, so my mom, I believe, took me, and then my dad came and picked me up. And so just to kind of half it. And on the way back, he goes, boy, I'm going to introduce you to Ward's. And we were coming through Carthage, and I didn't know what Ward's was. And I hadn't eaten much for a week at Mississippi State, hadn't changed clothes, had a bath, shower, you know how it is.
Exactly, like a 10-year-old.
Filthy.
Exactly.
And I think he had the window rolled down the whole way from Starkville to Carthage. Like,
probably had to.
Stink, boy, so we pulled in there, and he got me a sack of little ones with chili and cheese and some French fries and a root beer. And I bet I had that eaten before we got to 25 and passed out. And so that's one of my favorite. So I love Ward's because of that. Not just because of that, but it was one of those favorite memories that your dad turned you on to a gym. And
well, I was reading something yesterday that made that point. Parents, and I'm guilty of this. I think we all are. We have this tendency to think when we're trying to do something special with our children, you've got to wait until you can do something really big. We're going to have a whole day. We're going to have a camping trip. Yeah. We're going to go on a vacation. But at the end of the day, it's the little things like that. What you're talking about 40 years later almost is the time your dad took you to Ward's after baseball camp. And it's just the little things like that.
Stuff. And I think about that every day almost. It's so it is a great point you just made. Being a father, I'm not, but it doesn't take big stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Little bitty stuff sometimes makes a lifelong memory, and I have plenty of those. And still, I love my parents to death, and really excited that they're still around and get to celebrate a Father's Day. Had Mother's Day not long ago.
Yeah.
Had a good time. We took her to Jerry's and we ate.
Oh yeah, had the catfish.
She's
I
a big
remember you telling me
catfish
that.
eater like I am. She even drank a beer with me that day. She goes, I think I'm going to have a beer today.
Good for her.
Yeah. She still works. She
deserves that.
And, she's blowing and going all the time as well.
My mother's a realtor. I didn't. We got a bunch of connections here.
Lawyers and realtors in there.
Well, it's we're almost to Father's Day. Sunday's Father's Day. I know people are like Lance. Some are celebrating today. If you want to tell us how you're celebrating Father's Day or memories of your father you want to share, hit us up at the C Spire text line 601-879-4395. We're coming up on a break here, but folks, we are live this Friday. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Extraordinary intergalactical upsets. Only Dr. Hans Zarkov, formerly at NASA,
Zarkov's the guy.
Welcome back, y'all. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi on a theme song Friday for everybody on June 19th. Jonathan on the C Spire text line says his favorite memories with his dad are going to watch Ole Miss play in a couple of Sugar Bowls. Sent us a pic from 16. That's an awesome memory right there. Hope everybody has a great one.
Yeah, it's so much fun to reminisce and think back, and some of the good stuff. As a kid, we always hunted and grew up in a hunting family, a sports family. Grandfather on my mom's side played football in college. Dad played football. A lot of relatives, and everybody was just kind of athletic and hunty. Had lawyers and all those types of folks, and it was a very talkative group most of the time. But I always used to love watching my dad when we'd get to my mamaw's house, his mom, and she had this old tomcat named Thomas, and it was one of these strays that would come in, and she had tamed it, and the only person that could pet that cat was her. And he was a little rascally and liked to bite and claw and scratch. And every time my dad came in the door, he'd immediately go to that cat and harass him because he knew that cat would like to – he liked to rascal and play. And I was little, and he'd say, boy, don't mess with that cat now. And then he'd immediately go over there and, like, pull on its tail and start messing with it. And then they'd start kind of swiping at him. And I thought my dad was Superman because he was so fast. He never got hit by the cat. And as a kid, I always thought that was pretty cool. So when we got our first cat, we had a blast, a little Pomeranian and a gray tabby cat that would come in every night, and they would fight each other and roll around the floor for 20, 30 minutes in front of my mom and sister and my dad and I while we sat there and laughed and laughed. And they did it, these two animals did it for like entertainment purposes for us, and then they loved it. And my dad, just watching him get so tickled and laughing. And you never see a stoic person that like their tickle box kind of turned over. But I remember those moments where actually this Superman, huge behemoth of a guy that, was always kind of tough, there would be those tender moments where you'd see this just absolute giggle and tickle box turning over. And I just always found that to be one of my favorite moments, too, because, you know, you always kind of look at your dad as a little different, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's like a statue.
A superhero.
Yeah, so when you get to see him be a little human sometimes, it makes your day.
Well, Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Lance, we got any birthdays worth talking about on June 19th?
Well, let's hit the weather real quick just to
that's
give
a good
the
question.
breakdown. So if we're looking at the Delta, basically thunderstorms and patchy fog today, the same throughout the day, potentially some fog through the day, thunderstorms tonight, and then tomorrow showers are likely. And you get pretty much that forecast for the next 4 or 5 days, so just kind of buckle down. Temperatures are going to be in the upper 80s during the day, mid-70s, low 70s during the evening hours. You can pretty much copy and paste that for the central Mississippi area. Same thing. Rain is expected. You're looking at the 50s and 90s and 80s and 60s and 70% as we move forward. So it's going to be there for you if you're looking for rain.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. And then the coast, it'll be a little better as we get into the Saturday, Sunday range. Thunderstorms are expected as of Sunday down on the coast, but it'll start getting a little nicer through the day on Sunday. But again, you're still going to have the rain, the thunderstorms, potential for floods today. That is a 7 a.m. cutoff, as we mentioned yesterday. That has not changed yet on the coast. So if you're out and about and you do have to go to work this morning, still be careful in those low spots.
Is Arthur's passed at this point?
I believe so, but you still have some of the tailwinds there and some of the water that's still swelling potentially. But again, as of 7 a.m., that flood watch will subside and things should start looking a little bit better down there on the coast. I hope it's been not as bad as it looked like it could be. And then in North Mississippi, you're going to have a pretty day up there today. You're going to have a mostly sunny, 86 degrees, mostly cloudy tonight, around 66. You will have a chance of thunderstorms tomorrow, around 30%, and around 20% on Saturday night, and that will increase to around 70% for just showers, nothing big as far as the big stuff goes. For Sunday, temperatures again in the upper 80s, mid-80s through the day, and in North Mississippi. It's going to be really nice tonight, 66.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's unexpected.
A little cloudy. And as you get into the morning tomorrow, it'll be a real pretty day in North Mississippi. But as the day goes on, you might start seeing some clouds and then some showers by Sunday. So that kind of catches us up with where we are in the weather for the next few days. And as you get to Monday, and as far as the birthdays and such go, pretty decent little list today. Kathleen Turner.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Romancing the Stone and Peggy Sue Got Married fame, 72 years old. One of my faves, Felicia Rashad.
Yeah, there we go.
78. I can't believe she's 78 years old. The Cosby Show and Creed. Zoe Saldana, 48 years old. Avatar fame and Guardians of the Galaxy. Gina Rowlands, The Notebook and a Woman Under the Influence. She passed in 2024. This is her birthday, though. And then Mia Sarah, 59. That's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And also the movie Legend. Some musicians out there, Ann Wilson from Heart, 76 years old today, and Paula Abdul, 64, straight up. American Idol fame as well. Macklemore, 43, Thrift Shop, Can't Hold Us fame. Simon Wright, 63, AC/DC drummer. And then some other notable figures, the author of the Satanic Verses. I think they had a hit out on this guy for quite some while.
Did.
Good old Salman Rushdie, 79 years old. Can't believe he's still alive, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he was not very well loved by wasn't it the Iranians?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I think because of the Satanic Verses.
Yeah, not a good book for them, I suppose. Not sure who this is or how to say the name, but I want to try, so that's why I'm going to do this one. Aung San Suu Kyi, 81 years old, Myanmar political figure. I think I nailed that one.
Is that that's the resistance figure?
I think
over
so.
there?
Yeah. I was not sure, but I think you're right. Dirk Nowitzki, former NBA he's a Hall of Famer, 48 years old. Blaise Pascal, mathematician and philosopher, passed away a few years ago, 1662. And then the great legend of baseball, Lou Gehrig, 1941 is when he passed. Today is his birthday.
There we go.
Catches up on the birthdays today. And one really cool thing, 1885, something big arrived aboard a French ship.
Oh, I bet I know.
Yeah, came into New York
Is
Harbor.
that Lady Liberty?
Yeah, 214 gigantic crates.
Wow.
Full of the Statue of Liberty and croissants. Croissants were molded, but the Liberty was ready to go.
That's right. The statue made
hard
it.
croissants there. The FCC was established on this day in 1934. A lot of things happen, when you go back to 33, 34. A lot of the big buildings and the big agencies were created during that time. FDR and FCC being one of those, and they keep us straight.
Yeah, that's right.
Another big one.
I got no comments on the FCC.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Y'all
Appreciate
are amazing.
all the hard work.
Did
Thank
you get my check?
Exactly.
And then 1953, one of the most interesting stories out there when you have spies. I love a good spy flick. But the Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, they were at Sing Sing prison, and they were actually executed on this day. They were selling secrets, U.S. nuclear secrets, to the Soviets. And I believe they, even to the end, were like, we didn't do it.
I think that's right.
We didn't do it, but they were the first U.S. citizens to be put to death for spying and espionage. So that was pretty. I don't think that stopped anyone from doing it.
There've certainly been some folks since who've continued to do it.
And then, and oddly, don't know if he was still on it or not, but in 1967, Paul McCartney admitted on TV that he had taken LSD. It's like one of those things where you're like, yeah, you didn't have to say that. It's 1967. A little early for that. Maybe 5 years ago you could have admitted that on TV, but that seems like a pretty early, very bold move there.
Which is funny because you think of them, they come across as having been so clean cut, but very clearly were not.
No, yeah, I think they had a good old time. And then in 1990, opening statements were presented in the drug and perjury trial of Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry Jr., later convicted of a single count of misdemeanor drug possession and sentenced to 6 months in prison. Didn't he get caught on TV or like an old VHS smoking crack or
something like that, but then got reelected.
Yeah, he was reelected after that. Yeah, he had a long career. 1999, Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup by defeating the Buffalo Sabres 2-1 in a 6-game match. Had gone to triple overtime and ended past midnight.
Ooh.
And you think of a hockey game, ooh. I mean, that's a triple overtime hockey game. They probably had some teeth missing after that one.
I'm sure you're right. Y'all stick with us. This is Lucian here with Lance on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have more coming up after this.
From the Seabrook.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Mornings here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Lucian Smith in for Richard today on a theme song Friday. We asked you earlier, what are you doing today on Juneteenth to celebrate the holiday? And a number of people have chimed in on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, if you want to be part of the conversation. But the general consensus seems to be people are working today to celebrate the holiday.
I'm going to, at some point today, though, I am going to have to catch up on some Magnum P.I.
Look, that was strong right there.
I love Magnum P.I. I still watch it. The old helicopter that's brown and orange and yellow. That's the kind of Because we were talking about the fan boat.
Right.
That's the color scheme I'm looking for. That era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want the Detroit Tigers hat while I'm riding my airboat. Grow out a really good mustache.
Have they rebooted Magnum PI?
I hope not.
I feel like every show from back then they've come back. Like Miami Vice had another run,
and that's another one of my faves. I like that. But Burn Notice is a good one from like 2000 era. It didn't make it long.
I remember when that was on. I don't know that I ever watched it.
It's actually pretty good. I mean, if you like that kind of stuff. But on this day in history, this is one of those my favorites. American socialite Wallace Warfield, who became the wife of Prince Edward, Duke of Windsor. He would have, think of that. You hand off being the king because you're in love to an American socialite who I think at the time was still married, maybe, or not. I can't remember. It was scandalous.
She was divorced.
She was divorced.
But her husband was still alive.
Yeah, and just crazy story. And then,
what happened on this day with her?
Well, they got married on.
That was the day they got married.
Announcement day, yeah. So
think about that for a second. It's amazing. For anybody who doesn't follow it closely, the King of England. This was right at the start of World War II.
Yeah.
Marries this woman. Back then, if you were divorced, you couldn't be received at court. So if you had divorced somebody, you weren't allowed to come to events with the king because it was such a scandal. And so when he married this woman who was divorced and whose husband was still living, it was such a scandal that he had to abdicate the throne. So his brother became king. It was Elizabeth's father who became king, and then Queen Elizabeth, and now King Charles. But a couple of generations ago, he had to renounce being the king of the United Kingdom because of divorce, and now you got Charles is divorced, Harry's married to a divorced woman, Andrew divorced, and all of his other issues. I mean, it's just you have to think. You'd love to know what Queen Elizabeth thought about all of that. As much upheaval as her life had because of Wallace Simpson and her uncle. To watch all this divorce that's around her in common now.
Then you got Lord Mountbatten, and he had some weird. I think the CIA followed him around for a while. Had a pretty good file on him pre-Epstein, but that was around turn of the century with Wallace and the big guy. And in 1867, another interesting one. The Emperor of Mexico, Maximilian, he was executed by firing squad. Yes, you've messed up when you get the firing squad.
Some states are bringing those back now.
Yeah, did we have, what is North Carolina or South Carolina?
Something like that.
Yeah, we're going to do the firing squad again. I think the reason they quit that because the bullets were too expensive. They must have been putting too many people down. This day in history also, Kuwait was actually recognized by the United Kingdom, who was kind of their benefactor there for a while. Kuwait, though, interestingly enough, had a couple of other flags flying over its kingdom there. Ancient Greece, actually,
really,
in the 4th century BCE, and then the Ottoman Empire from the 18th and 19th century, and then the United Kingdom held on to them from around 1900 to 1961. Then you had the Anglo-Kuwaiti Agreement, which Britain acknowledged them as a independent country. So pretty interesting there. Small little place, but most people, if you do your historical digging, that whole area, pretty much all of the Middle East was held by France. I mean by England. And then you had little pieces with France. But England, you had Iran and chunks of Iraq and Syria, Kuwait, and all that area. And if you go back and look at it, those were their holdings pretty much. And they did not want to let go of stuff
No, not at all.
After World War II, and same with World War I. So a lot of the issues that you see over there today are who drew the lines.
Yeah, and so much. You're absolutely right, and it's one of the differences I think between Iran and so much else of the Middle East is there's some actual cohesion and history to Iran, but the rest of it, and I'm not an expert on that period of history, but it sure seems like an awful lot of it was some Englishman sitting in a room going, well, we're going to call this country Oman. Right. And then these folks over here, we're going to call it Kuwait. We're going to cut it all up, and here's your new maps everywhere.
And oddly enough, you have the same issues in Southeast Asia where France and, others were, and then the same in the Afghanistan-Pakistan area where you had lines that were kind of drawn in the sand and really didn't take into consideration the tribal and historical alliances. And it created a lot of problems that we still see today.
Yeah.
And, that's just the facts. And people always wonder, why are they always fighting? Well, they really weren't always fighting. But they were at the point where somebody said, you're in this country now, and you're over here now. And that definitely has created a mess.
And some of them weren't, you think about Europe, this is changing, but you think about Europe, 50 years ago, people, France was composed of French people.
Yeah.
When Germany and Italy united, they were composed of German and Italians. Same thing in Spain. But over there, you had a lot of people who, from the West, we might think of everybody as being an Iraqi, but they're going, oh, well, you're a Kurd and you're a Yazidi. All these different groups, and we don't have anything in common except we happen to live in the same neighborhood.
Hundreds of years worth of those affiliations that just kind of said, no, they don't work anymore for us. So that was just something I wanted to cover.
Yeah. No, on the C Spire text line, we've already got somebody answering our question. Apparently Magnum PI was rebooted about 10 years ago, and apparently it's so bad that we've all forgotten about it.
Yeah, thank goodness. I don't want to know about that. That hurts my feelings. An interesting one here, and I'll finish on this, and then we'll hop in a little sports.
Yeah, we can check out some sports.
Alexander Joy Cartwright arranged a baseball game between the New York Knickerbockers and the New York Nine at Hoboken, New Jersey, the first baseball game to use a set of rules on which the game today is based.
Really?
That happened in 1846. Yeah, that's pretty interesting
stuff.
They've been playing ball, but they finally had a game where they said, all right, you can't run to third first and then back home and to second. No, we've got some rules here. And they've actually been around since 1846, man. Thought that's pretty cool.
Wow. And they had a good little run here.
The game, you got to stick to the rules. The thing about baseball that gets me is if you try to do it your way, it usually humiliates you and humbles you. There's a tendency to do that. Quickly, New York Yankees leading in the American League on the east side, obviously. They're up by 3 over the Rays. Chicago White Sox having a banner year as opposed to what it was been like for them for the last few years. Got a few Ole Miss dudes in the minors and moved up some here and there. Chicago up 4.5 on the Twins, tied with the Guardians. Seattle Mariners up 1.5 over the Athletics. National League, the Braves are up 7 over the Phillies. Milwaukee Brewers, they're in the catbird seat, 5.5 above St. Louis, and the Dodgers are 9 games above the San Diego Padres. So that's there's your Major League Baseball caught up. America will play today in the FIFA World Cup Series. That will be at Lumen Field, Seattle, Washington, USA, 2 p.m. Drop the ball on the pitch. Don't know what a pitch is, but that's what they call it.
I think it's a fancy word for a field.
Yeah, I like it. And then another big one today between Brazil and Haiti, and Scotland and Morocco, and Turkey and Paraguay. Both those teams, Turkey and Paraguay, lost their first game. Brazil tied. Haiti lost. Scotland and Morocco. Scotland won their first game, so they're 1-0. They have Morocco 0-1. And the United States is playing Australia, 1-0 for both teams. So I believe USA is favored a little in that one, and hopefully the USA will be victorious. And then as far as baseball goes, Oklahoma, North Carolina will first pitch tomorrow, Saturday, and Monday if necessary. You also have the leaderboard on the first round of the U.S. Open. W. Clark was 6 under, Johnson 4 under, Fitzpatrick 3 under, Woodland 3 under, and Cowan 2 under. And today you will see a first pitch on that at 6:35 a.m. with James Nicklaus, Taylor Montgomery, and Caleb Surratt will tee off. And then at 6:46 a.m., Ethan Fang, Jaden Shaper, and Jackson Suber. So
I think that's how you know you're not yet a celebrity when they say, all right, buddy, you're going out at 6 o'clock.
And, maybe there's some benefit to that because you get done a little early. You get to go sit at the bar with all the other guys, pull the, Shooter McGavin stuff. You tell stories and talk about how great your day was or how poor it was at any rate, or if you made the cut or not. So you kind of get into that. Hopefully the weather will hold out.
Yeah, they had some trouble yesterday.
Yeah, it's Brooks Koepka, that group, Cameron Young, they tee off at 7:30 if you're interested. And then 7:19, a little earlier, is Pedrick Harrington and Cameron Smith. So pretty good group there real early. But, yeah, the 6:35 breakfast tee off, you're going to have your toaster strudel on the wall.
Yeah, you got to start early if you're one of those guys. Y'all stick with us. We'll have a lottery update coming up right after this break. This is Lucian Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Get yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, it's time for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation. There was no jackpot winner in Lotto America, but the jackpot for tomorrow is $30 million. The numbers from Wednesday were 11, 16, 18, 33, and 51. The Star Ball was 9, and the All-Star Multiplier was 5. Powerball, estimated jackpot for Saturday, June 17th is, for Saturday, presumably, is $302 million with an estimated cash value of $135 million. The numbers from Wednesday, which was June 17th, were 3, 26, 49, 53, 61, Powerball of 12, and a Power Play multiplier of 2. Double play numbers from Wednesday, June 17th were 10, 17, 44, 63, and 67 with a Powerball of 24. No jackpot winner in Mega Millions, but a jackpot for tonight of $452 million. The numbers from Tuesday were 12, 20, 53, 67, 70, and a Mega Ball of 12. Well, the Lotto America jackpot rolls again to an estimated $30.23 million with an estimated cash value of $13.5 million for Saturday's drawing, which will be the 133rd consecutive roll since the jackpot was last hit in August of 2025. If hit, it would be the third largest jackpot in the game's history. Lotto America tickets are only $1 with the option to add the $1 All-Star bonus to multiply your non-jackpot winning prize, or Easy Match for another $1 for a chance to win instantly. Get your tickets at your nearest retailer for tonight's drawing. You can always check winning numbers or see if your ticket is a winner by downloading the Mississippi Lottery official app. A few folks here on Savannah's list. A D'Iberville man won $5,000 on a cash for ticket from Marathon in D'Iberville. A Ridgeland man won $2,500 on a ticket from Sprint Mart number 101 in Ridgeland. A Starkville woman won $2,500 on a cash pop ticket from Quick Shop 40 in Starkville. And a Clinton man won $5,000 on a ticket from a Food Mart in Hazelhurst. Those are just a few people who are a little happier and a little richer after winning with the Mississippi Lottery. Remember, you cannot win if you don't play, and play responsibly. This is your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation.
And thanks to one of our listeners here, I wanted to mention this because how cool is this? NASCAR is making history by holding its first ever race on an active U.S. military installation.
Oh, you're right. I did see that.
Naval Base Coronado in San Diego. The inaugural NASCAR San Diego weekend takes place on a 3.4-mile, 16-turn street course and culminates with the Cup Series Enduro 250. Friday's events, June 19th, is the Craftsman Truck Series race, the Navy 250, and that is Navy Community Day limited access. I have a cousin of mine that's a retired colonel from the Marine Corps, and he's retired out in San Diego. He's in his 80s now. Had a little trouble with the Agent Orange, but he's pushed through like all the Marines do. I'm hoping he gets a chance to go to that today. I'm going to have to reach out.
Yeah, make sure he knows.
Yeah, man, I'm sure he does. That's probably every Navy person over there is probably, we're in, dude. Saturday the 20th is the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, and then on Sunday, June 21st, is the Cup Series race, the Enduro 250. So thanks for the update on that from one of our listeners. Greatly appreciate.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic event.
And if you've got other stories you think we've missed or want to be part of the conversation, send us a text at 601-879-4395 on that C-Spire text line.
You know, I was mentioning something yesterday. A friend of mine's dad, who passed away recently, he was the guy that got caught with the bag of money when they were trying to legalize horse racing back, in the early 80s?
Really?
70s. Wonderful man, had the most amazing stories you've ever heard in your life. And I sit there and listen to him for years. I grew up with his son, so this was something that 51 years almost at my age now. I'm 51. I'd say minus 6 years. So from when I was about 7 on, I would love to listen to Mr. Robert tell the stories. But him telling that story about the horse racing,
I'm sure.
I've always wondered why we couldn't get horse racing legal. Because, NASCAR's huge.
Right.
But, horse racing is pretty cool. I don't want dog tracks and all that.
I agree.
Horse
I'm with you
racing
on
is
this.
a remarkable sport. My brother-in-law's, he's related to Lucien Loren, the famous trainer for Secretariat. That was his uncle. So I kind of grew up with a little understanding of horse racing. And the only real horse race I've ever seen was the carriage race up at Neshoba. And I love it. It's so cool. But I love horses. I'm not a big horse rider, but what a majestic creature.
Oh, I completely agree. I similarly, I've ridden a horse before, but I'm not good at it and hadn't done it.
They ain't got no shocks on them.
Yeah. They don't. Well, I always end up with they got to bring out the big old boy whenever I was doing it, so I never was a huge fan. Y'all, great to be with you this morning. First hour there in the book. Stick with us. We'll have more of mornings coming up after this, but first, Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, y'all. This is Lucien Smith here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Friday, June 19th, a federal holiday of Juneteenth. Also a theme show Friday for everybody. And we're live, so if you want to be part of the conversation, send us a message at 601-879-4395, the C Spire text line. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call today at 601-206-7966 or go to MWGEmployerServices.com.
Well, we got a nice little comment. Star Trek was the best. Yes.
Yes.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. I was a big Star Trek fan as a kid myself. So.
And I wonder
the
how
original
many
with the gold uniform.
Oh, when they were as I understand it, Gene Roddenberry thought of it as a space western. That was kind of his concept. But you wonder how many people who he got phenomenally wealthy. But I have to think most of the people who were showrunners in that era in television, I'm sure they made reasonably good money, but the Roddenberrys are like generational wealth, and I'm not convinced that that's the case for most of the people who were writing scripts for 30-minute TV shows in the 60s.
No, but, you look at some of the mansions out there of people you've never heard of that were producers, TV producers, not even movie producers. Man, they were raking it in.
They were making some money.
Well, one little, it's the weekend. You have the Iran deal that's been negotiated. There's no bombs going off. Everybody's settling in for a wonderful Juneteenth and a Father's Day weekend, possibly watching some sports.
That's right.
I think it's going to be a real soft landing on a Friday. But you get something like this, and it makes you think, maybe it's not going to be an uneventful weekend. Who knows? But Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, she's upset at Trump because, Trump said that she begged him for a photo, and she's claiming that's completely fabricated. Real upset. She's hot about it. Trump had actually said, she begged me to take a photo with her. She wanted a picture with me so badly. I wouldn't have done it, but she begged, and I felt sorry for her. So
is that what he actually said?
He said. Ooh. And so Maloney says, we never beg. I can only say it's unfortunate. he doesn't have the same behavior toward his enemies. So we've got so we got some heat coming out now on the weekend. It's not going to be a soft landing after the big G7, apparently. You had Hegseth over there kind of pulling out the leather glove and giving the NATO folks a good old slap Bugs Bunny style. You guys aren't investing enough into your own defense. And now you have Meloni upset that apparently she did not beg for the photo that Trump said she did. So the Europeans never cease to amaze, you know.
Yeah, it's a bad deal.
You got Keir Starmer over there. I think is he building a raft to get out of England fast enough?
Hey, Starmer's in trouble. The guy ran for Parliament pretty much expressly to run against Starmer for leader of Labour, and he won comfortably yesterday. So Starmer's definitely in trouble, and you can't blame him. After the grooming gang report came out, and you realize just how complicit the British leadership has been in just it's tough to read the stuff that's been going on over there without the British leadership really having any trying to stop it. I mean, almost not quite encouraging it, but really doing nothing. It's crazy.
You know, the invasion of that mindset into the European world. I imagine, America is usually, 5-6 years behind Europe. At least when I was a kid, that's what they always would say. Well, America always gets everything after Europe. You know, we were always kind of like the styles, the clothes, the this, the that. You know, you always kind of, it took a minute to get across the Atlantic. Now everything's kind of connected, but at the same time, you see they're having a major problem with cultural issues, obviously. Yeah. I mean, Europe, an old world civilization, merging up, it seems, with another old world civilization, Islam, and it's not going very well. Did you think it would, Lucian?
It's one of the things that makes our country unique, really, in the world is we are united more by creed and beliefs than we are by any sort of common ethnicity. You know, you think about, we were talking about this before, France is full of French people. Germany's full of Germans. You know, that some of those places before they were countries, there was an idea of we're this people. But we've always been a nation of people who came from different countries, but we all shared this belief in sort of liberty. Now, we can disagree in the exact right policies here or there, but that's been one of the hallmarks of America is we believed in fundamental rights. We believed in choosing our own leadership. We believe in religious freedom. That's sort of broadly held in the country, and that's really what unites us more than saying, well, we're all Americans because we're descended from the same people. And yeah, I do think it is not a surprise that people who come over and do not share those beliefs and try to replicate the Sharia law, the systems they have in, the tribal parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan, those two things are just fundamentally at odds. Right. That does not work. And that doesn't mean you can't come over to America or Britain, wherever, and practice your religion. But you can't come over and replicate a system where you have a separate set of laws, where people who don't believe in the faith can be the targets of assault with impunity. And that is what happened in Britain. Is these people were coming over, they were grooming and assaulting children, and I'm being a little opaque here because we're a family program, but I mean it is just sickening to read what happened, and it led to this sort of two-tier policing. You saw the fellow who was stabbed and died in the UK, and they were in the process of arresting him for what was alleged to have been a racist comment. And the whole time he's sitting there bleeding out. I mean, it's astonishing what's happening over
How do
there.
your priorities get so turned around? If you are a country, I mean, I can understand a community, but a country that's supposed to have, morals, values, ethics, some kind of culture, a long-standing understanding, I would say, of, the rule of law,
right? The
protection of your citizens, your borders. I mean, look at Europe. It's had its problems over 1,000, 1,500 years. As far as the borders go. But, I mean, how do you get to this point where you go, I don't really care about the people that are paying the taxes, that have been here generationally, that gave us this power. Let's don't worry about them. Let's worry about the new crew that we're bringing in? How do you get to that point?
I don't know. I mean, it's this sort of Douglas Carswell, when he was in, was talking about how it's a problem you're seeing all over the English-speaking world right now. But there does seem to be this fear that if you ever say, that's wrong, that doesn't work here, that you're going to be accused of being a racist. And it's not about – it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with culture and beliefs. And you just – there are stuff in this report that talks about how these girls were okay to be targeted because they were not they weren't Muslims, and so it was okay to assault them. I mean, it's just that is totally incompatible with the Western liberal ideals. It's extraordinary.
I always have a gut instinct to me, and again, religion has such a big piece to play in all of this. Islamic philosophy and Jewish philosophy, they really hold tight onto their beliefs and believe they're right. Is it that Christians maybe are a little bit more forgiving, maybe look the other way, aren't as entrenched in the way of thinking that you see in the two, Islam and the Jewish faith, that they seemingly are much less welcoming? Is it that the Christian faith is much more welcoming, and Europe was a predominantly Christian bastion for such a long time? Do you think that has been some of the entree and invitation?
I think it's more the secular religion of moral relativism. Okay. It's this increasing willingness or unwillingness by a lot of people who are elites to say that's just wrong and we're not going to have it here. And because of this fear, someone will say, well, you're not open to other ideas, or you're not, you're presuming that your set of assumptions and values are superior to others. And you know what, Lance? Sometimes they are. Yeah, and this is a pretty good example of where it is a pretty good example of where, our values are better than those values, period. And I think that's a fine thing to say. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Not always, but it can in this case.
Yes, this is one where it would have been a lot better for a lot of people if you had some people who were actually willing to say that's wrong and we won't tolerate it. We're going to prosecute these folks and we're going to send them home in a lot of cases. But it didn't happen, and a lot of people suffered as a result. Y'all, we're coming up on a break. Stick with us. We'll have Starla Brown, the State Director of Americans for Prosperity. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the venerable
to a deluxe apartment in the sky, moving on to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi, on this Friday, June 19th, Theme Song Friday. Lance, I'll tell you, my parents moved into a condominium after a house fire 25 years ago, and I was in college at the time. And I think I sang the Jeffersons theme song every time I saw them for about 6 months.
Brother, I
watched that.
I watched Good Times and the Jeffersons every day. And the Jeffersons theme song was always so funny until the lyrics came out, when you were younger. I always thought it was boo-hoo, banana. I never knew it was moo-hoo, banana, boo-hoo, banana. I would sing it like that, like I didn't know what they were saying. I just loved the song.
Well, with us in studio is Starla Brown, the State Director of Americans for Prosperity. Thanks for being with us, Starla.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. As we were talking about, it's a good steamy Friday morning. But we had some pretty severe weather yesterday in parts of the state. So,
we really did.
So thinking of those out there that are dealing with flooding and all kinds of other things this morning, and we dodged a little bit here in the Jackson area. So
I agree with you. Hopefully it'll clear on out here after the weekend, and maybe we'll have some dry days. Would be nice.
That'd be nice. That would be nice.
So tell us, for anybody who doesn't know, tell us a little bit about what AFP is, what you do here in the state.
So first and foremost, we get labeled a lot by opposition as a think tank, but we're not. We're a grassroots organization, and that is really the heart and soul of what we do. Our grassroots organizing is a key part of what we do, not just here, but in all. We have a footprint of some sort in all 50 states now, and so for us, it's. We're a nonpartisan organization. I work with people from all kinds of parties, independents and nonpartisan and ways, but driving what we consider transformative policy that helps Mississippians, right? Whether it's breaking a barrier for, occupational licensure, right? Breaking a barrier for small businesses so that they don't have to do something that, is hurtful. There's that sort of theme of do no harm, right? That we get from the medical community and ethical piece there. But that applies to all of the legislation and laws that we look at. And so sometimes our point of view may look a little different for people because we hold accountable both sides of the aisle. Because at the end of the day, when I'm at the Capitol, I'm there to represent the people of Mississippi, the taxpayers, and we care deeply about several things. We have something called the 601 Blueprint, which you
tell us a little bit about what that is.
So you can go, if you want to download the whole file and look at it or just take a look, you can go to ms.americansforprosperity.org, and there's a tab there for that. It is a legislative agenda. It's fluid, and it grows and changes as things pass, as each year comes by. And so some of the transformative policy that we looked at in this over the last couple of years has been very focused on certificate of need laws, for example, in healthcare. We did fight Medicaid expansion. Turns out that was a good thing, so we're proud that we did get in that fight, even though it seemed a little tumultuous at times. But certificate of need laws, if you're not familiar with them, it's a permission slip from the government to open or expand an existing facility, whether it be an MRI machine or be whatever. And we have about, I think, 19 categories in Mississippi that lead to almost 80 subcategories, if you will, or certificate of need laws. And so we just don't think that, taking this sort of anti-free market approach, states that have eliminated a good portion of their certificate of need laws are actually seeing, where there's some studies that have started to come out now that we have some time for that, they're starting to see improvements in access, and it drives costs down when you have a free market, not like it drives it up when you have protectionism and control.
What was the original theory behind certificates of need? Because you don't see it anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, you do in other states, but you don't see it in other industries, really.
The thought process was, I guess it's to be simplified, and I'm going to really simplify it here, was that if did we need this facility, or was that competition or opening that up going to cause an issue, right? Well, like something would close or something. So it was really just an anti-free market approach. But the thought process was like, hey, we'll simplify this in such a way, and we'll say who can open up this or open up that, and we won't oversaturate the market. Well, if we just use some common sense on simple economics, supply and demand, I guess the thought process there was too much supply was going to, create an issue. But it's really archaic at this point, and it's policy that's not necessary. If a private individual wants to come in and open up a business, we don't tell in the private sector, we don't say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't open this or you can't open that. And so why should it be the same in the hospital and healthcare field? We have a healthcare crisis in this country, there's no doubt. But changing laws or removing laws that take away the ability for people to thrive and flourish or to have something in their community. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think at the end of the day, like, what do we got to lose? I mean, they're investing their money, right? It's not like the government's saying we're going to pay you this or pay you that to open up. So they want to take that risk and take that chance like any other business, right? Because let's face it, healthcare is not a nonprofit industry.
Right. There was for a long time there have been efforts to change the CON laws in Mississippi, but the sense I get from people is that maybe that the tide is turning a little bit. There's a little more openness to making a change.
It is. We have spent the last 2 years, especially really 3, but 2 where we were very, very invested in certificate of need laws and educating the general public. And I can tell you from traveling across the state speaking about this and my team speaking about it, we're generally in a room about 15 minutes and people say, why do we have these laws? Right? Like the general public gets it. Unfortunately, we've had bipartisan support too. So I think all of the members of the House and Senate who supported this. The roadblock has been in the Public Health and Welfare Committee in the Senate, but there were some changes this year, and there was a strategy to have like 2 bills. So we did actually take a bill that the governor had vetoed, and rightfully so on the constitutionality piece of it. But that bill went through. Now, it didn't eliminate a ton of laws for everybody, but what it did do was create a higher threshold in some categories for facilities that said, oh, okay, it's now double what it used to be. So not triggering that application is a good thing. And we also had a win in the rural hospital community, so we've removed some of that. But the problem is we start to do this thing called cherry picking, like, hey, let's do a little over here, a little over there. But, and instead of just eliminating the law and like saying, hey, let the free market reign on this. But we did see more CON bills this legislative session than I've seen since I came back to Mississippi.
Really?
And so we had even Democrats who filed some smaller bills for for a county area that would help their hospitals. So I hope we'll continue this. We're not done yet with that. I mean, we've made some incremental steps, but we've got to keep moving. We need to get rid of them. And there was a legislative win that's gone back into the courts around, the home health care industry. And
what happened there?
Yeah, so Aaron Rice, who litigated that, he got a piece of it, right? So there's a moratoriums, right? There's not just like, okay, here's the law, you got to apply for this, but sometimes there's a moratorium that says you can only have so many of this, across the state. So that's still pending some an appeal, and I guess we'll see where that goes. But home health care we have an aging population in our state. Home health care is a big part of what people need, and so putting restrictions on access to that care just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense either. So that's been some for us on the healthcare side. On the education side, we've supported education savings accounts, commonly known as ESAs. And
how does an ESA work for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah, so it depends on how the legislation is set up here, but we sort of modeled a little bit after the Tennessee with House Bill 2 that we had this past session, and unfortunately, it didn't go very far in the Senate. It didn't get out of committee and was overwhelmingly denied even further talks about it. But at the end of the day, an education savings account is taking those state dollars that are allocated, and there's a under the funding formula, there's a certain amount that we say this student, it will cost to educate this child. There's weights and things that can be added on for certain children. Let's say your English is your second language, your special needs. There's all kinds of other things so for some kids it costs a little more to educate. For others, it's less. But so it's taking those state dollars and allowing parents to utilize them a number of different ways. And something we forget to talk about is within their own public school. Maybe they need a tutor. Maybe they need certain textbooks. Maybe they need some time with a particular type of individual based on their unique needs. But we think parents should have a voice in the education of their child, bottom line.
We're coming up on a commercial here. Can you stick with us for another segment?
Absolutely.
Y'all stick with us. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have more with Starla coming up next.
From thecbro.com.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We still have with us Starla Brown, the State Director of Americans for Prosperity here in Mississippi. Starla, we were talking about education before the break. Tell us a little bit more about ESAs, Education Savings Accounts,
right,
and what else y'all are thinking would be ideal for Mississippi in that area.
So the two areas of the bill that we were most engaged on was we refer to it here in Mississippi in the policy world. It's called open enrollment, but we always say people get confused with their insurance time of year. So portability was a word that we sort of adopted here, and that is the notion, which we already have some existing things in the state. But the problem is like, let's say your child wants to transfer to another school for whatever reason. It may be a very positive reason. It doesn't mean the school they're in is failing. Maybe there's just a academic piece over there they want to be in, and whenever they wanted to move, if the sending school vetoes that, then the child can't go, even if the accepting school had capacity, bandwidth, program, all of the things, and said, there weren't behavioral problems that were part of the guardrails. So, the House developed a good bill with a lot of things in it, and that was one of them. And it's one that we think one of our partners is Yes Every Kid, and Yes Every Kid has a No More Lines campaign. We've drawn these arbitrary lines about where kids can go to school, and I think fear drives a lot of the opposition, right? When opposition puts fear in people, like these things are coming in. There were times where I thought, I really believed in the social media atmosphere that people saw 1,000 kids running over the horizon to, just pull at the doors and come in their school. It wasn't like that at all. Okay, there were definitely guardrails put in place. Even things that we didn't like so much around charging tuition to kids when they go to another place. So we didn't think that was something to support for every family. But on education savings account, again, we're allocating these dollars in Mississippi. Education is a form of government, and we have a large, we've got a budget that keeps going up each and every year. Primarily, even at the local level, when it goes up, you see more money going into the admin salaries, right, than into the classroom. And if I'm a teacher out there today, I would want this free market principle of the ESA, because I will tell you, I was in that fight for 8 years when I was in Florida with AFP. And what we've seen there, the amount of opportunity for teachers, even to open their own schools, right, has just flourished. And I think we could see that in Mississippi. So even saying hey, there's a education desert out here and there's only one school or whatever, maybe the answer is there shouldn't be just one school. Maybe there shouldn't just be one choice. And we don't go into the grocery store and say oh, I love that they have limited choices here of what I can eat or do, right? And so the same thing shouldn't apply to education.
Well, and you don't have to go to the grocery store that's around the corner from your house. You can choose the one that best meets your needs. That's exactly.
I sometimes drive from Ridgeland to Brandon because there's a grocery store out there I like, right? So I think at the end of the day, the most important piece here is this should be about the kids, not about the money, not about this sort of comment that we hear all the time about public dollars. We don't use that term. It's taxpayer dollars.
Right.
And that individual parent, in some form or fashion, in some way, generally pays some taxes into our system, right, that go in the general fund.
To my mind, the question is, are you funding children or are you funding systems?
Yeah, exactly. And in Mississippi, that's what we're doing.
Right.
And there's a lot of cronyism in the system. I've been doing some research on salaries of superintendents, finding out some households, their wife also works in an admin role. They've got side gigs within the school system that they're also benefiting from. It's a lot of dollars.
Well, I think about groups that purport to represent the interest of parents that probably would be better off calling themselves the administrators campaign if they were honest about it.
Exactly. And there have been members that have shared with us, just a visual share of the intimidation tactics that superintendents often do where, in the middle of the day, I'm wondering how they have time when school's in to be texting a member and saying, I'm going to take you out of office. We're going to primary you. Frankly, I don't think the numbers are there. I think, the difference sometimes between when we have people call in, we may have less people call, but they're your constituents.
Right.
They're not like this same group of 200 or 300 people that just call every legislator. And so that's not how we operate. And so I think, that's been a part of it. But look, we're looking at consolidation. We're starting to have conversations around that, and we definitely are interested in those conversations. When we look at the numbers here of the school districts compared to a state like Florida, which has virtually 10 times the population, we're almost double. We're almost double in superintendents. Yeah. And so I'm saying when you look at a county that it's a small county and you've got maybe 2 high schools, one's in the county seat, which might be 5,000 people, right, or something like that, and maybe there's one out in the rural area. And then you've got your other pieces of the K through 12. My question would become, why do you need 2 superintendents there? I mean, I think from the standpoint of efficiency, hire people that can manage a district like that. It's small. When I look at other states with larger populations and how many people are engaged there, it's very, very different. And so
one of the criticisms of choice that I see, and if you want to be part of the conversation, send us a text at C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. What is there data that supports that choice improves student outcomes?
Yes, there is some data now that started, and not only the outcomes, but also the amount of money that's having to be spent on students in states with ESAs is becoming where their budget is actually lowered because it doesn't cost as much to actually educate that child. I mean, there's some states. We're not. For us, it's not chump change, but at the end of the day, there's states that are putting tens of thousands, and there's some districts in this state where it's costing much more for a child. So, so we're starting to see some good data come out because now that states have had this for a while, right? This movement in the last couple of years have seen a lot of people come on board. But yeah, there's studies out there, and frankly, at the end of the day, a parent knows their child best,
right?
And they know if that child's thriving and that outcome is what they need to see. Some of the micro schools that I've been watching that are starting up and starting to advertise heavily are showing that through AI, how kids learn is changing. And there are kids who are spending 2 to 3 hours a day in academic study, and the rest of the time they're doing things like building robots, they're starting a garden, they're learning how to budget a household, they're learning things that, life skills that are also equally important. So I think we're starting to see the fact that, where we were 100 years ago or 50 years ago, we're not the same anymore. The world has changed a great deal, and we can either catch up to it or be left behind. But at the end of the day, how students learn, it's not a one size fits all, and we need to consider that.
So one criticism here on the C-Spire text line is that we're attacking school administrators, which we're not attacking school administrators. It's a question of resource allocation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, where should those resources be best spent? And so I think at the end of the day, that's this consolidation piece is not probably going to be a comfortable conversation all the way around. But at the end of the day, do we need 2 people in some of these counties,
right,
or 3, or whatever it is? I don't think so. I don't think that that's the issue. When you start really studying where the money is being allocated, and there's study after study and state after state of more money going here and less money going here in the classroom, which is where the students actually learn.
We've got a little over a minute left, Starla. The 601 blueprint. Are there any other major topics in there?
Yeah,
that y'all are taking a
we're
look at?
looking at something that we had a bill on, didn't get out of the Senate, portable benefits, which is for the gig economy workers. We're looking at REINS Act, which reins in unelected bureaucrats, gives more power to the legislators, and so there's several things that we're working on there. We have a candidate school coming up with Americans for Prosperity Foundation, our sister organization, on August 15th in Ridgeland. You can find it at our Facebook. You can find a registration. It's on Eventbrite. But we're going to be, whether you're first-time candidate or you're running for re-election and you want to up your game a little, we've got a lot of knowledge we're going to be teaching for the day. Programming starts at 9. We'll be open at 8:30 for a little breakfast, and we're going to have a day of learning how to run your campaign.
And if you want to learn more about that or more about what AFP does generally, what's the website again?
It's ms.americansforprosperity.org, and you can find us on Facebook at Americans for Prosperity. There's a little dash in there, Mississippi, and we're also on X at AFP_MS. So
there we
follow
go.
us there.
Well, thank you, Starla, for being with us.
Thank you.
We've had Starla Brown, the State Director of Americans for Prosperity here in Mississippi. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us for more after this.
But you don't understand, they keep a showing my hands and not my face on TV.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee's dead. The morning's looking bright. And your shrink ran off to Europe and didn't even write. And your husband wants to be a girl. Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. You wanna go where people know people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. That was not the original version of that.
Yes, it is. It is actually the full version where you only get.
Oh, that was the actual full version from Cheers.
Yeah, that's the real song there. If you really want the good lyrics, you got to go to the meat in the middle.
Can you imagine if a show now had and your husband wants to be a girl as a line?
Would your shrink run off to Europe and your husband wants to be a girl?
I mean, they'd have to put riot police outside of NBC if they had that in a promo. I mean, I had to
let you know before I played it. I'm like, this is the best part of the song. You're like, what is he talking about?
I thought that was like a modern parody you had gotten.
No, sir. No, that's the real song, man. It's kind of like MASH. You know, the song itself is very deep and goes all over the place. And you really only hear a little bit of it on the MASH, with Alan Alda and all that. But same with Cheers. The song's great. It's about 2.5 minutes. And you really get like a minute of it, when you're listening to the intro from Cheers. But the actual lyrics are a trip, yeah.
That was a great show.
Oh, I've never missed it, man. I loved Ted Danson in it. And, I spent a few years bartending in college, probably as a result of, watching Cheers, thinking that, I was a baseball player. He was a baseball guy.
Oh, that's a good point.
There's a great correlation there.
Yeah.
So that would kind of say, man, I'll give it a try. He had a lot of fun with it. Mayday Malone. So he always had a lot of beautiful ladies coming in. You had the big, the 5-star restaurant upstairs.
That's right.
Had everybody knew everybody, and that's really what your local cantina is like. If you are one of those that likes to stop by after work for a beer and hang out. I love that part of the bartending world. I mean, I'm not a big drinker in that regard. But I love the creativity, but also meeting people.
Right.
And getting to know them and the regular nature of it. They would always tell you things. It's kind of like Delbert Hoseman was saying the other day about when he goes out to left field at State.
And everybody knows
Everybody
each
knows
other.
him, and they will tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And I actually get a kick out of that, you know. And, well, you could have made that drink this way, or you could have done it. And you're like, man, just mind your own bit. But the give and take was always fun, and I enjoyed that. And it does remind me an awful lot of Cheers. Yeah, it's very similar to that.
I lived in Boston for 5 years and made a point. Somebody gave me this advice: don't ever go into the actual bar. Cheers, because you drive by and the outside looks exactly like it did on the show. The inside is not a Hollywood sound studio, so it looks completely different. And I remember somebody saying, just don't ever go in. That way, you sort of can preserve the imagination that right down there is the bar from that show.
Yeah, I passed by it. I've been to Boston once. It's such a neat city. I mean, you can like walk the whole thing in a afternoon, basically. But yeah, we never went in, but we did take the pictures out in front. I think they got like the duck tours that are close to, or something.
You know, I never did one of those, but they always look very cool. Well, ever notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. And when you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs are, here you'll talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net. The TSA, Lance, has put out a warning to Europeans to let them know that they should not carry ranch dressing in their carry-on bags if they're returning.
Is this something that they have to travel with?
I think this is because...
Oh, no, they're taking it home.
They're taking it home. When they've come over here, they've consumed a little ranch dressing, and they think, I need to take a gallon of this back to Italy with me.
Well, thank goodness they didn't get the comeback dressing, man. They put on 10 pounds before they got on the plane.
That's something Freddie missed. He did not get any comeback.
You come back with a little Louisiana hot sauce in it? Oh, man, that's the best.
But comeback's fascinating to me because you don't really find it outside of central Mississippi.
I mean, the South. I mean, it's a version of remoulade.
Oh yeah, no,
a buddy of made made a great version of it. I like the thicker version of comeback a little bit more. It's almost more remoulade. It has a little of the grit to it.
Right.
But again, I like all the different comebacks. But,
I'm a fan.
And I wonder if any of them tried tartar sauce. Because they all like
that's a good question.
Chips over there. It's like, what do y'all put on that?
That's a very good question.
Because here we got tartar sauce, and everybody's is a little different, and it's delicious.
Yeah, I'm a fan of all these things. So, y'all stick with us. We'll enter our third hour here in just a minute. We got a great conversation with Stafford Shurden, farmer and author, coming up next. But first, Fox News followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Was previously recorded.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound, just watch the bandit run. Keep your foot hard on the pedal, son, never mind them brakes. Let it all hang out, cause we got a run to make. The boys are thirsty in Atlanta, and there's beer in Texarkana, and we'll bring it back no matter what it takes.
Welcome back, everybody, to this theme song Friday here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I think Shurden may be able to get us a Diablo sandwich on the double.
There we go. With us on the line is Stafford Shurden. How you doing, my man?
Hey, he's got to come with a Dr. Pepper.
Well, thank you for being with us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, it's always fun to be on and talk about Mississippi and gas station food or whatever it is we're going to talk about today.
Hey, look, it's Friday. It's a holiday for some folks. It's a holiday for everybody. Whether or not you're off today is a different conversation. So,
if I'm a farmer. We're never off. So.
Exactly. We asked earlier this morning, how are you celebrating the holiday? And most people were celebrating it by working. So I think there are a lot of folks doing that.
Yeah,
you've had an interesting, you're just a fascinating career in life. Tell us, I'd love to hear how you got where you are and what you're doing right now.
Well, I don't know if we have to do all of that, but cotton to Mississippi Delta. Those that are watching online, you can see my hat, Drew, Mississippi. It's a home argument, all that lore and the Mississippi Delta lore. I grew up in the middle of all of that and wanted to come back home and be a cotton farmer. And so I came back home, farmed with my dad about 4 years. He retired in 99. My dad and my uncle did. Started farming for myself, still farming. So I've been doing it 31 years. I've been farming, and at some point in the early 2000s, I got really involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And I don't know, in a moment of hubris, decided I could be a restaurateur. So I opened a restaurant in downtown Drew 21 years ago. We're still here. And then ran for justice court judge, so I dipped my toe in the politics thing and won 4 elections and decided that I had enough of politics. Didn't want to do that anymore. And then started this whole social media thing, which is what most people know me for. All that other background stuff, man, everybody knows me for the social media stuff. The eating the fried chicken off a tailgate of a truck is what I'm most known for, And
there was one in particular that got millions of views, right? That kind of launched the platform.
Well, 6 years in of doing it and 232 episodes of the gas station review, it's a lot of them have done really well. So I don't know that I can point to one in particular that made it take off. It was just kind of, it's weird because I've done a lot of stuff. I use social media to run for office. That's really how it all started. And then I had that platform, and I'm like, what am I going to do with it? Start this, and it took off. That's really an advertisement for our restaurant. I mean, if you're on Main Street, USA, which we have a lot of that in these little Main Street towns like Drew, it's hard to advertise and market to people to come to your business. And so I was just looking for a different way to do that, and then it exploded into that was bigger. Writing a book about. Well, not now. All this is in my book, Meeting 3. And just I don't know, one thing kind of leads to another, man. Jerry Seinfeld had a great quote. He said, you leave enough in the tank to get you to the thing.
It's funny
how
been the story. It's funny how little things that don't seem like major decisions prove to be deciding things. Like, to your point, just doing a little social media to try to get people to come eat in the restaurant, and all of a sudden you're a celebrity in a certain sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to be eating lunch with somebody in Nashville, Tennessee, and get interrupted by somebody that says, man, I watch all your stuff, and walking through an airport in Dallas, because it's, happens in Mississippi, but when it started happening outside Mississippi, I was like, okay, this is different. And I did choose a little bit, I think there's different roads you can go on social media, and a lot of guys are critics, food critics. I am not a food critic. I just go, hey, man, this is good. You need to come check it out. I put out what I enjoy, what I like. And that was kind of the long game in that I know I sacrificed from views, but, I don't know. As a business owner, it just felt more right for me. And I think that made me able to do a book and we're doing a thing right now called Success Supper Club, which we bring these people in. Dr. Michael Manning was here yesterday. He's probably been on y'all's show. And he's one of those Mannings, right? And from Drew. And we just sit down and have a conversation about business with business people in the room. And if I was a food critic, I don't think I would have the gravitas to do that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. What do you think? I mean, it's got to be small town America, small town Mississippi is struggling. What's it like, and what do you think the special sauce is for you having been successful running a restaurant when a lot of restaurants generally, but a lot of sort of Main Street America is struggling right now.
So it's funny because this came up in our supper club last night with Dr. Manning, with Michael, and he said, somebody asked him what makes a Main Street entrepreneur, and he said grit, and I 100% agree. It's just grit. I mean, the people that made it just hung in there longer and took more hits than the people that didn't make it. Because I don't think it's really about being that smart or being that clever. Everybody has different skills. My skill is not back of the house SOPs. It is being on camera with you guys. So everybody has different skills, and finding the people that can complement my skills with the skills I don't have has been a big piece of it. So I've got a great team, and we work real hard to attract good people. But I don't know, man. It's just there were times I probably should have thrown the towel in that I didn't, and because of my love for Drew, Mississippi. And my love for Main Street USA and what we're, I don't know if grit can be taught, but I think the people that make it certainly have it.
It makes sense. I mean, if you're not, I have to think most of the people who are successful in whatever their field is, you gotta fail a fair amount, just because if you're not failing, you're not really trying new things.
Yeah, but you fail forward.
Right.
Like everybody, you listen to these guys that are really, really way smarter than me, and they're like, you only have to be right once, right? You just fail forward, and you just keep failing, and finally you fall into success in a way. And I don't know, man, you can rate success a lot of different ways. If you use money as a ruler, as a measure, I don't know that you can call me successful. I made a lot of money doing this. But I had a heck of a good time, and I've met a lot of incredible people, and I mean, I've had a success on levels, like running for office for me was easy. Running for office was easy. I didn't love it, but it was easy to do. And so I've had those successes, and they don't always translate into money, but I get purpose tokens out of them. I get a profit of the spirit out of a lot of these.
Which I think at the end of the day is the real. I mean, that is success. The sort of joy you get if you're getting joy from what you do. That's about as successful as anybody can be.
Well, I've got a business coach that's going to come do supper club with me here. We're doing it in Oxford. We're actually taking it on the road, and I want things to be highly meaningful, highly enjoyable, and highly profitable. And I said, well, Coach, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, that's amen. That's a good way to put it. Stafford? What's the name of your restaurant?
Stafford's. So there's a story behind that too, man. So I knew what I didn't know. I was smart enough to know I'd never been in a restaurant before. So when we opened, there was actually 2 other restaurants in town. And every restaurant in both gas stations had fried chicken, right? So, it's funny that I'm known for reviewing gas station food now, but at the time I was like, well, we're not going to do fried chicken. We're one of 4 places you can get food in a little bitty town of Drew. So we just did sandwiches, and we called it Main Street Deli and Gifts. So my wife actually had a gift shop in part of the building, and I had the restaurant in the other part. And then I looked up, and we were the only people serving food. And so we kind of pivoted. That happened pretty quick, actually. So we pivoted into doing plate lunches, and we got better and better at it. And people just would call it Stafford's. They didn't want to call it Main Street. And then we closed the gift portion of it and expanded the restaurant. And I was just like, you know what? Let's just call it Stafford's. And it's Stafford's Market and Deli. So we kind of keep the sandwiches a little bit. But, yeah, it's definitely that is one of the secrets maybe is pivoting. You learn to pivot. There's what I wanted to be. I also owned a restaurant, and I learned a lot of lessons. I had this vision in my mind that people wanted, so we had to pivot, and that's part of it too.
Can you stick with us for another segment, Stafford?
Sure.
We're up against a break here, but stick around. We'll have more with Stafford Shurden. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let 'em roll, from sea to shining sea.
from Happyville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP. You're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
There's a little hotel called the Shady Rest at the Junction.
Petticoat Junction.
It is run by Kate. Come and be her guest at the Junction.
Petticoat Junction.
And that's Uncle Joe. He's a moving kind of slow at the Junction. Petticoat Junction.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. We've got with us Stafford Shurden. Stafford, curious, with the pivot to plate lunches, how much of that was your seeing a business opportunity versus your thinking Drew needs to continue to have a place where you can get a hot sit-down meal as opposed to just sandwiches?
So the motivation for me has always been that I'm adopted, Lucian, and not just by, I always felt like I wasn't just adopted by the Shurden family, my mom and dad, who were just amazing, perfect parenting, man, just really lucky. But I was adopted by the town of Drew, and I was watching, like a lot of us have in Mississippi, small town Mississippi, watching this town evaporate before my eyes. And I couldn't just stand by and watch the town that adopted me die. That was really, that's all the motivation that I needed. So the pivot was, how do I keep this thing going? And I just felt like that was the motivation. What do people want? And how do I have that place that can be the gathering place in Drew, Mississippi? And so that was more of a motivation than the food. But on the other side of that, man, this is what I grew up eating. You know, I think about all the little country stores and my grandma's cooking and all of that. This was the kind of food I grew up eating, so I do love it.
When did you realize the gas station reviews were really taking off?
It was funny because it was so fast. You know, I put the first one out and it was like 10,000 views immediately. And if you go back, you can find episode number 1, you know, with me at the Double Quick in Indianola, Mississippi. I was not prepared for 10,000 people to see that thing, you know, and I was immediately. It was so much feedback. People called me going, what do you, exactly, they're friends of mine, you know,
right.
And some of them were, this is brilliant. Some of them were, you have lost your mind. You're in gas station food, right? But within just a little bit, and this was 2020, spring of 2020, really January was the first one. So if nobody forgets that by March we were in full swing COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it was like I had this huge, you know, momentum, and then COVID hits. And I had a little time to think about it, I guess. And when I came back, I kind of changed the way I was doing it and took it a little more seriously.
What was the moment? What made you think I ought to write a book? We hadn't really had a chance to talk about your book this time, but what makes somebody say it's time to put this all in writing?
It's a bunch of stuff. Number one, I love to write. So I've written stuff for Mississippi Magazine and done a bunch for Scott Cookwood. I even did a series of articles for him about food back in the early 2000s. So I've always liked to write. I had a great English teacher, Bobby Dubard, in high school, and a lot of people will remember her. She's amazing. I always thought I wanted to write a book, and I was at a business meeting in Nashville, and my business coach there, he said, Stafford, you ought to write. And he typically tries to get people to write books, but he usually says business books. And he said, you're kind of a different case. He said, I just think you just need to write a book about everything you've done, which was easy if you think about it. Like if you write, I'm friends with Wright Thompson, and he writes these incredible books where he does all this, you know, he researches for 2 years the subject that he's working on. Well, I don't have to research it. It's just what I lived. So it was actually not that hard to write for me, and I enjoy doing it. I really like writing. So,
and it's kind of memoir, kind of life philosophy, all kind of wrapped in one, right?
Yeah, it's more memoir than anything. I always said it was a life philosophy book disguised as a memoir. But yeah, it's just stories about growing up here and what the Delta was like. And it's even in Mississippi. This is one of the things I figured out even in Mississippi, there's a really misunderstanding of what the Delta is.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know. I don't
unpack that a little bit, Stafford. What do you mean by that?
It's just when I went to college at Mississippi State, back in the early '90s, I just remember thinking, man, those folks are different. And there was a realization. It wasn't them that was different, right? Like it's like it's something that I can't verbalize it necessarily, but just everything about the Delta is just unique and different. And we're a young culture in a lot of ways. The Delta wasn't settled until really early 1900s, early 20th century. And so we tend to think of it as this old culture, but it's really not. It was always in those days fast moving. There was so much going on, and in a way we're still living off of those early successes of the 1920s in the Delta.
And so much more diverse than I think
because it happened,
realize.
It started evaporating. Say that again?
I was saying it's so much more diverse than people, I think people outside the state, maybe even inside the state, realize just the diversities of culture in the Delta.
Yeah, you look at like all of our downtowns were built by Jewish merchants.
Right.
All of them in the Delta. I mean, you go back and like my building is the Sklar building. This is Sklar's Antiques where I'm sitting in the back right here. But you can tell that story over and over. And then you had our Chinese American merchants that came in and had all the grocery stores, right? In Lebanese and, Steve Azar got that history there.
Right.
It's from the Delta. It's so interesting. And then, everybody else worked on the farm. And it started out as logging. A lot of people don't understand, the original thing was the railroads come through after the Civil War and they started logging. And then that dried up pretty quick. But the Delta, I don't know why it's so different. It really is, though. It's a unique place. It was a wonderful place to grow up. I had a lot of freedom. The big piece of the book is about the freedom I had as a child, which I don't think kids get now.
Not at all. I mean, it's crazy how different it is. You're not allowed to go far from the house, but you can have a cell phone and go wherever you want on it. But yeah, when I was a kid, so long as you were home by supper, you were fine.
I sometimes went home I remember like 13, 14 camping, and you can't see it on the radio, but I'm making quotations with my hands. We called it, and we were camping, but we would be gone the whole weekend. And Mom was like, as long as you're home for church.
Yeah, no, it was a different era. Well, I bet you got some great stories from being a justice court judge. You must have seen some stuff in that role.
I don't know why I always go to this one, but the very first search warrant I signed was on a moonshine still.
Really?
So, 2006, it was on a moonshine still, and it was like the 1920s. They broke them up with axes and poured all the liquor out on the ground, and it was on the front page of the Enterprise Toxin. So that was pretty funny. But I got a bunch that I don't know if I can tell yet. Maybe need another 10 years
You
off.
have to wait a little while.
Maybe I can start telling them. I may have to wait a little while.
Well, I assume there's some Staffordisms in the book, which is meat and three, everybody, and you ought to get it from your local bookseller.
So I had a chapter where I talked about so many of the things my dad said to me, and I'll butcher them up without him sitting in front of me. He had so many great one-liners, and but the one that tends to resonate with people is he would say, I just remember we'd get bad weather and my dad would be pacing in front of the window at the office, our farm office. And he was like, all right, we're fixing to get up and do something even if it's wrong. And it's like that's kind of motivation when everything hits the fan, do something. You can't just sit there and concrete in yourself. You got to get up and do something. But I always love that line. And it tends of everything in the book. I think that for whatever reason, that line has resonated more with people than anything.
So, do you have? I mean, are you able at this point? Are there subtle signs you can see with a gas station that gives you a sense of whether you're about to get the good stuff or not the good stuff when you go in?
So when I was first doing this, it was like a 30-minute drive from home. Was that's what I thought. I would do 30-minute drive from home. I'd do 10 or 12 of these, and that'd be it. Mm-hmm. Well, 232 episodes. I've been all the way to Key West, all the way to San Antonio, Texas. I've met Hilton Head, North Carolina. I mean, just all over. And now I have to do a little more research because I don't want to drive 11 hours and it not be good because I don't put out the bad ones. So, yeah. So I do a lot of research now. for a business owner, if you don't have a Facebook page, I'm just going to tell you, I'm a host. And so if I go looking for information on these businesses that I want to visit and I can't find anything on their or they don't have a website, some type of online presence, I think we all use Facebook kind of interchangeably. But
right.
If you don't have an online presence, we're going to assume you're not open anymore. So I'm not coming. And every now and then I will, but typically, yeah, that's an indicator. The other thing is if I'm just driving through the countryside and there's a little gas station and it's got 10 or 12 pickup trucks with toolboxes and lighters in it.
You know it's going to be
Working
good.
guys know where the good food is. I will stop and check them out.
That's great advice. Stafford, thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning.
It was so much fun, Lucian. Thank you.
Always great. We've had Stafford Shurden, author of Meat and Three, farmer, proprietor of Stafford's, and all-around good guy. So thanks for being with us, and thank you all for listening. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have more coming up after this break.
I get allergic smelling hay. I just adore a penthouse view. Darling, I love you, but give me Park Avenue.
The chores.
The stores.
Fresh air.
Times Square.
You are my wife.
Goodbye, City Life.
From the Seabrook.
Right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude. Oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is a place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars.
The Beverly Hillbilly.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Well, that was some. We're live this Friday for Theme Song Friday, so you've gotten some real classics there.
I try,
Lance.
you try to do what you can when you get the control,
and it's popular. I can see on the C Spire text line the number of people who are putting in requests and complimenting you on that. So excellent job as usual.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, I was trying to be relevant with Stafford as well, because
he is great.
What a good. I mean, the first time I ever met him was a few months ago when we had him on. It was probably 6 months ago. And just visiting with him in breaks. What a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine you're going, all right, I'm driving to Key West or Hilton Head or San Antonio. I mean, like, what is your prep for going to get fried chicken 12 hours away?
Right.
I mean, do you hit stuff on the way? Do you save your appetite?
That's a good question.
Very curious because you want to go in with basically a mouth-drooling, mouth-watering hunger with pangs. So you can truly enjoy all the fried chicken.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna eat a half chicken at least if I get into a fried chicken.
I'm a fan.
Are you a fried chicken
Oh,
fan?
yeah. I like fried chicken. And I thought his advice about looking for the gas stations that have, like, the work trucks outside, that's your signal you're at the place you need to be. Because I run the roads a fair amount, and if you're in a new area, if you're going on a road that you do regularly, you kind of know where the places to stop are. But if it's a new spot, you just never know where you're going to go in. Is this the place that's going to make you sick, or is this the place you're going to go back and tell everybody, man, the next time you're in fill in the blank, you got to stop by this joint? So.
I think he nailed it, though. When you start seeing the work trucks, guys that are there for a reason. They've been working hard already since daybreak. It's 11 o'clock. The parking lot's full.
Yeah.
A few ladders maybe, a couple racks on a truck, some mud on the side. That's the place you want to go.
Yeah, that's the place. Well, we asked this in the 6 o'clock hour, but those of you who weren't with us in the 6 o'clock hour, let us know. Send us a message at the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. It's Juneteenth. It's a holiday. I know many of you are off today. Let us know how you're celebrating the holiday, what your plans are for the long weekend if you've got one. I know many of you are working to celebrate the holiday. Or let us know what you're doing on Father's Day. We got Father's Day coming up on Sunday.
Do you remember when you were a kid that, it didn't seem that there were so many celebratory moments packed into a year. I don't really remember Mother's Day and Father's Day being such a big event, when I was 8, 10, 12, 13. Now, over time, it seems to have grown much more popular. Do you have the same memories, or do you remember, big celebrations and going to dinners and things like that for Mother's and Father's Day?
That's a really good question. I don't remember big celebrations for Mother's and Father's Days, but I wonder if it's because it's gotten bigger, because it feels like everything is bigger and more formal now in that sense than it used to be. But some of it also may have been. I don't think my kids think of Father's Day or Mother's Day as being a big deal. They know. I tell them, go draw a card for your mother on Saturday, and I'm pretty sure Beth right now is probably telling the children, go draw a card for your dad, and it's a fairly regular day for the kids. So I wonder, that's a good question, Lance. I wonder if that's something that's really changed, or something that it's just how you perceive it when you're a child as opposed to when you're an adult.
Well, you got a little bit of history here. I didn't get it as far as on this days in history when we started these many hours ago. But Father's Day was first celebrated on June the 19th in 1910.
Really?
In Spokane, Washington.
Did like a card company come up with the idea?
It was championed by Sonora Smart Died, who wanted to honor her single father, a Civil War veteran. It took more than 6 decades for the event to become a permanent U.S. national holiday in 1972. So I was born in 74, and I guess it took a little while for it to kind of take, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. The first celebration, though, was 1910. Early state observances were in between 1924 and 1966. President Calvin Coolidge supported the idea in 1924. Lyndon Johnson issued the first presidential proclamation in 1966, designating the third Sunday in June as Father's Day. An official federal holiday in 1972. That's when it was formally anointed. So President Richard Nixon was the one who signed that into law.
It's a good day. It's a good day. Good to recognize fathers, just like it's good to recognize mothers. I'm lucky, I still have young children and a healthy father, so I absolutely love Father's Day. It's just a fun day to hang out as a family. The U.S. Open's on, so we'll watch some golf. If the sun is up, if the sun is out, the sun will be up during the day, barring something unexpected.
So, unless you're in Moscow.
Yeah.
You've seen some of the pictures lately of Moscow.
They've gotten them. Ukraine's come after them.
Ukraine said, look, if you're going to come after us, we're not going to let Moscow sit there and, hang out in the park and eat their sausages and drink vodka. We're coming after you. And it looks like they have actually landed on some big targets. It looks like the Persian Gulf in Gulf War I, where they were blowing up all, the Iraqis were blowing up the oil rigs, and it just blackened the sky. But it looks ominous.
Rough.
Yeah, it
looks rough.
And then you had an update too. I just saw this come across. Trump's team and Qatar have brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon per Axios, and that's to ensure that the peace process continues.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced the deal is going to happen. I know it has happened. I know it's been signed. I'm not sure there's a real peace deal that's going to be made.
And I looked into it greatly. The only thing that I can really tell that's much different than before is that we've removed the restrictions, trade restrictions, the embargoes, all of those things that have kind of been hanging around since the 70s.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it doesn't look extremely beneficial to the United States. From my math, it looks like about $1 trillion out-of-pocket deal for the U.S.
It's a great deal for the Iranians.
Oh, it seems like it.
And I think you can see that. Senator Wicker made some comments yesterday, not being explicitly critical of the president, but a very clear statement that he has real concerns about the Iran deal, and I think he should. It would be like, because the president says, look, the Strait of Hormuz is open. Well, the Strait of Hormuz was open before we attacked Iran.
Yeah.
We created a problem, and now we're celebrating that we solved the problem. It'd be like if you and I, if you and I were in a fight about how much airtime we were going to get, and, I said I want 8 minutes. You can have 3 minutes in this segment. And then I hit you. and you put me in a headlock, and I go, I tell you what, you can have the whole segment. And then I go, hey, look, complete surrender from Lance. He let me out of the headlock. I mean, that's essentially what we've done in Iran if we're going to celebrate that we got them to stop doing the thing they did because we attacked them. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. I think we made a bad deal here. And I'm not entirely convinced we really have a deal. And you see that with J.D. Vance apparently is not going to Switzerland, so the talks were supposed to continue on taking it from this framework to something concrete. So we will see what happens.
I'm not quite sure who's running the place over there. I mean, in Iran at this point. I know that that is still probably a little unclear. You have the whole elected official group with your basic military. Then you got the mullahs and the clerics with the hardliners and the Revolutionary Guard. So, I mean, I'm not quite sure who they're negotiating with. We haven't really – it looks to me like they're negotiating with the president and the elected side, which seems to maybe create some of the issues because you got a hardliner group over here that's probably communicating back with them saying, no. Yeah, we're not signing that. So it's multilateral. Was that how you would probably put this?
It's the sense I get that you got a lot of people over there.
Probably too many
right.
in the kitchen is kind of my guess. And the validity of the deal, again, who are you signing it with? You know, who are the parties that are putting the ink on the paper? And are they the type that can actually stick to the deal?
And I don't think they intend to.
No.
Thomas,
I think they're going to get their money, and then they're going to do what they normally do.
I think he says, I don't believe it's a good deal because I'm not a chump. And I think that's a compliment, Thomas, and I appreciate it. I agree.
Yeah. Well, it'd be hard to look at that and think that anything's changed outside of pouring a lot of money into their reimbursement fund.
Yeah, well, it makes, and I think this is the line Senator Wicker used in his statement, it makes what Obama gave Iran look like a pittance compared to what we're doing. So, y'all, we're coming up on a break here. This is Lucian Smith here with Lance on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us for final thoughts coming up next.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucian Smith here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Friday, June 19th, Juneteenth, the Friday before Father's Day and Theme Song Friday. Yes, that was the theme from the movie, right?
That's it, man. The one and I played the part exactly where Superman is holding up the helicopter and pushing it back up the skyrise, because that's the kind of power and scrumps that you bring to this show. So that's how I wanted you to be able to go out today, is the Superman.
Well, I appreciate
Luciano Ella Smith.
I got to go. I hadn't watched the old Superman movie since so long, but I loved it.
I love Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor.
Absolutely.
What a dude.
We were talking, so in the first segment this morning, we were talking about memories of your father, and I told you one of mine was running the road up and back to Starkville for baseball games, but this is how I remember it. I'm sure after the show, Dad will set me straight if I'm mistaken. But we got pulled over once when I don't know if I was 10 yet. I mean, I was a little kid, and it was back when, you know, this was all pre everybody having HBO and Netflix and all this. You know, NBC would sometimes broadcast, all the networks would sometimes broadcast real full movies. And I want to say Superman was on NBC that night. And Dad had promised we were going to go to the baseball game, but we were going to be back in time for Superman.
Yeah.
And he may have been driving slightly in excess of the speed limit that had been set by the state of Mississippi. And I believe one of the fine men of the Mississippi Highway Patrol pulled him over as a result of it. And he explained, I promised him I'd get him home in time to watch Superman after the Mississippi State game. And I'm pretty sure he got off with it.
That's awesome. You got to have a legitimate excuse.
And it wasn't like he was going 110, just to be clear. I mean, he was just going a little faster than what was probably 55 back then.
Well, I think that most of our law enforcement from the reservoir all the way to County Line and Ridgewood were listening in the other day when we were talking about circumventing some of the basic rules and things early in the morning, because I saw quite a few of the law out there looking for me this morning. So
there was a large presence.
Yeah, man, I had to circumvent some of the
Well, I joked.
I was like, they're looking for me today, man.
I had the exact same thought earlier this week. I had, I made the joke that occasionally before 6 a.m. it may be straight on red after stop.
Right.
And it made me wonder, was the Ridgeland Police Department listening that morning?
I saw Reservoir PD, I saw Ridgeland PD, I saw a couple of others as well. I'm like, man, thank you for listening.
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Greatly appreciated.
And thank you for everything you do to keep us safe. It is very much appreciated.
Well, and happy Father's Day to all you guys as well out there that are protecting us. Much appreciated. I know it's, in many cases, thankless, dangerous, and difficult job. Thank you, though.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're. I know you've got dinner with your father
well,
tonight.
I call it an early, late lunch. One of those, power lawyer lunches where you eat at, a porterhouse at 2.
There we go.
Yeah, well, this is 4 o'clock. So I'm definitely going with the Bloomin' Onion. I hadn't had one in a while.
Those are good. That is tough to beat.
That's tough to beat.
I hadn't been to an Outback in eons.
Yeah, they go pretty regular. I think once every so often. I don't, it's been a while. The big jug of Foster's beer in the icy mug, I think that's going to definitely be on the list, too. I haven't had a Foster's in a while.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I remember they came on the old, exactly.
I'll go get a Sapporo every now and again, which is a great Japanese one, and they come in the big old cans.
So those are huge.
Yeah, they're big, man. So you kind of got to.
I got to figure out what we're grilling on Sunday. We normally I would do ribeyes, but those are
pork is a good price right now.
Last time I bought ribeyes, I remember thinking, God, I mean, you could go to a restaurant for what it costs.
The red meats out there are tough. Fried some pork chops the other day. I had 4 of them. The kind of thin cut ones. Mm-hmm. Oh, they were delicious. So, pork's always a great option when the red meat looks a little in the nosebleed section.
Yeah, but it's a good day for it. It's it's still going to be rainy. We think on Sunday. Is that the
I mean it's and depending on if you're in the central Mississippi area, it is definitely you're going to be having a chance of thunderstorms and chance of showers throughout the day on Sunday here in central Mississippi.
It makes a big difference. My enthusiasm for standing over a grill while there's thunder in the background.
But late afternoon, as you get closer to the afternoon, it should start clearing up. You may have some early morning stuff, and then as you get into Sunday, showers are likely. It'll be hot, 90, so it's going to be humid. But as you start cruising through the day and getting to the back end of it, it should start clearing up and being a nice evening for Sunday. Well, but then back to Monday, you're going to have some more rain.
Well, it's been wet. Sounds like it's going to be wet for a good little while. Y'all, thank you for letting me spend the week with you. Have sure enjoyed it. Lance, have enjoyed being here with you. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. A happy Father's Day, and Richard will be back on Monday. Y'all stick with us here on Super Talk. Coming up next is Fox News, followed by Super Talk Mississippi News.
Life's sweetest reward. Let it flow. It floats back to you. Love boat. Soon we'll be making another run. The love boat promises something for everyone. Set a course for revenge.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.